Hi, I'm Allie,
I'm Nick.
and this is the But Have You Tried bookshelf during a very special week of the year.
It is special.
It is special. I mean, every week is special.
Yeah.
But what week is it, Nick?
It's Banned Book Week,
It's
Allie.
Banned Book Week.
Did you ask me because you didn't know, or
No, I thought it would be fun.
oh, just like a setup, like a bantery setup?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry I ruined it. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Banned Book Week, Allie.
For Banned Book Week, here at the library, we were
Yes.
reading The Hate You Give
That's
by
right.
Angie Thomas, which I have read before.
I hadn't. This was my first. My first
And
time
did
reading
you get through the whole thing?
it. Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. Thanks for your concern.
Well, I didn't totally reread it. I only
'Cause you had
reread part
before.
of it because I had read it before,
Okay.
which is part of why I asked. Not because I was doubting you.
I felt a little judgmental, but that's fine. No, I hadn't read it, but I have read On the Come Up, also by Angie Thomas. Malika and I did it for a Black History Month episode on How's Things last year? I don't know. You can find it in the All the Books Show archive, everybody. SoundCloud.com/allthebooks. But I liked On the Come Up, and I liked The Hate You Give even better. So
Excellent.
I know that it's showed up on the challenge list many years, 4 or 5 years since it came out. And it's kind of funny reading it through that lens because, I mean, yes, it talks about like police violence, and it doesn't always paint the police in a very flattering light because it's coming from a
Right.
standpoint of reality,
Right.
not fantasy. And the reality is like those things have trends that are dangerous and concerning. But I feel like it's pretty even-handed, honestly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it doesn't feel to me to be a shocking book or a particularly like negative viewpoint of law enforcement. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Am I
Yeah.
crazy?
Well,
Like, do you
the
know what I'm
main
saying?
character's uncle is also a police officer.
Yes.
And he even says something, I think, like to the effect of like, well, we're killing each other more than the police are killing
Yeah.
us, kind of. I don't forget the exact wording, but it's definitely to that effect.
Yeah,
And so I feel like the book in general really just portrays like a variety of
it
like
does.
problems and issues and things that complicate the life
Yeah.
of the main character.
Yeah, and certainly you don't end the book being like, "Gosh, the cops are great." You know what I mean? It's
Of
definitely
course
a
not.
critical. It's a critical look, and rightly so. So I mean, there is that element, but it's just funny the things that wind up on the challenge list. And
Yes.
we should distinguish. We say banned books, and I mean, fingers crossed, we don't live in a society where books are actively like, you cannot print this,
Right.
you cannot sell this. That's a true ban. When we say banned books, we're really talking about books that face the most challenges. So people who are challenging school boards or public libraries or bookstores or, any places where books like this are available, people are challenging that and saying like, hey, I don't think you should have that, and I don't think
Yes.
anybody should be able to
In
read
that
it.
tone of voice too. You can't
Things-
challenge a book without
Right.
using that
Right.
tone of voice.
Challenges that by and large are objectively stupid are happening. And so, yeah, we just take a week every year as libraries. The ALA kind of spearheads this and puts this out. We're like, this is where the conversation's going. These are the books that are being targeted, are being called out as books that people out in the world think should not be available.
Well, and The Hate You Give is such a weird one to me to be on the banned books list,
Yes.
which I know you kind of already said, but like I can imagine if it was just like totally fiction,
Yes.
being like, wow, this is kind of intense.
Yeah.
Like maybe we don't want, like
Yeah.
our 14-year-olds reading this, like maybe it's a little dark for them, whatever. But like the fact that it's totally based on things that happen
Yeah.
all the time in real life,
Yeah.
it just doesn't quite compute with me that you would be like, oh yeah, let's ban this book
Yeah.
talking about things that happen in real life
know, I
that
know.
we have not been able to stop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. No, I'm with you. And, we've talked around this book a lot, but we haven't really gone through the premise. The basic premise is these two kids, black kids, teenagers, are in a car. It's like a routine stop, and the main character's friend is killed by the police he's just going to check on his friend. He doesn't have a weapon. It's a pretty...
He wasn't doing anything wrong.
Wasn't doing
they
anything
weren't
wrong.
speeding.
No.
Yeah.
No, and so that's what leads into this. And then the officer who was involved in the shooting, there's a trial, and I mean, I guess we won't get into what happens there because that's a bit of a spoiler. But eventually, there is rioting, and that's kind of the big climax of this story. And so you're dealing, like you said, you're dealing with real life things. And the time this book was written, and then the years immediately following, really played out in a way that I think highlights the importance of a book like this to
Absolutely.
get this concept out
Yeah.
there. Just in popular literature, which this is, the book was a bestseller for a long time, years, would show up on the list. There was a movie adaptation of it. It's continued to remain a part of the conversation and be a book that's continually pulled up as a book that people are reading. So I think that speaks to the importance of the book and speaks to the silliness of why a book like this would be challenged so regularly.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
do you have the list of currently like the most 2022
I
challenged
do.
books? I'd love to hear it.
I think this might be the 2023
Are
list. though,
are we
actually.
making this a competition, Allie? Are we seeing which one of us is?
We have to.
Do we?
We're
Okay.
obligated to make this a competition.
Okay.
To see
All right,
who's
I
read
don't wanna-
more
I
of
don't want to
these banned
embarrass
books.
you. I don't want to embarrass
Yeah,
you. but-
I'm not sure my
Let's
odds are
go
great
ahead.
in this one,
All right.
but we're gonna do it.
So the list that we're looking at here, if we're looking at the same one, is ALA.org. Has a whole topic, a whole section on this, and this is the top 13 most challenged books of 2022. So let me have it, Allie.
Yes. Which I think this was supposed to be a top 10 list, but some of them are ties.
I see.
So tied for the 10th most banned book.
Okay.
We have This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson
Okay.
and Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews.
I have not read This Book is Gay, but I have read Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews.
Did you like it?
No, I think it's a pretty bad book. Just
Rough beans.
it just not from like it should be banned standpoint.
But just
I
it's-
feel like
it's not
not a
good.
very well written book. Yeah, we did this for a summer reading program, YA for Adults book club years ago. Not because it was a challenged book, but because thematically it fit with the theme that year. But we read it and we were kind of like, this book's kind of dumb. So sorry.
This is one I've seen on the shelf a lot, like that
Yeah.
I've just noticed as I'm like shifting things around.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of curious about it, but I think I did read the jacket at one point, and I was like,
There is a movie version.
I'll pass
I just,
on that one.
I don't know. Like I just didn't like it.
just was
Like,
not your vibe.
No. So that's one. That's one for me. So I'm winning so far.
You are winning. I have not read either of
Okay,
those.
okay.
So, oh wait, also tied for 10th.
Oh my gosh, we got
Crank
a four-way
by
tie
Ellen
with 10.
Hopkins.
Crank. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's 4 tied for
Look
10th.
at that.
Oh my gosh.
Haven't read it, Allie. Sorry.
I have not read it either.
Okay. All right.
And then A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas.
Oh, I haven't read this, but I think I might be the only one left on Earth who
Well,
hasn't.
I also
You
haven't
and I
read it.
have not read it. My wife was just
We're
reading
the
these.
sole survivors.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm annoyed at this whole series for
Okay.
no rational reason.
You just don't like it. You just.
I
have
just like everything I know about it. It's just not my vibe.
Gosh,
it's like
you're
the
so
kind of
petty.
fantasy that I'm like, and now I could skip this. Yeah, I am a little petty about this. I'm not gonna lie. That is an accurate assessment.
Okay.
There's no reason for me to dislike this. I think the reason is maybe that like a lot of people who don't normally read books
Okay.
are really into this series, and it makes me annoyed because I feel like there's so many better series that deserve it. more.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe that's what it
Okay.
is.
All right.
Pettiness revealed.
Yeah, it's coming out.
All right, number 9 on the list, Out of Darkness by Ashley Hope Perez.
Okay.
Have you read this one?
Haven't read it.
I haven't read it. I've seen it again. This one has caught my eye a lot. The
Yeah.
cover that we have here on our copy is very distinctive.
All right.
So, but I have not read it.
All right.
Okay, number 8, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie.
Haven't read this one, but this is an old one.
It is on
This
the older
was,
side.
yeah, this has been around for a while. Won the National Book Award, I believe.
And it's been on, like it's been popping
It
up on
has.
banned books
It has
lists
showed up
for
on
a
the
while.
list. Yeah, many a time.
This is one that I have read, and it's
Oh, look
another
at that.
one.
Okay.
I did really enjoy it.
So we're tied.
Yes.
Okay.
So far we're tied.
All right.
This is another one that I'm like, I don't really understand why it's banned.
Yeah.
So apparently it's banned for like sexual content.
Okay.
But having read the book, I feel like it's really pretty mild in that regard in
Okay.
terms of the scope of YA books.
Got it.
So I don't know why this is one that gets flack for that when,
Yeah.
when others don't. I
Who
don't
knows?
know.
Okay.
Okay, number 7, Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison.
Haven't. I did want to read this one. This was on my list, but I haven't got to it yet.
I don't think I've even heard of this one.
Oh, man, I'm so much better than you.
Apparently.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, tied for number 5,
Okay.
we have The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky.
All right. I have read that.
That's a lot of consonants
read
in
it.
a row.
I read
you
it.
have read it?
Yeah. Have you?
I have not read it.
Also, didn't love this one. Very dark story.
Oh, really?
Very dark story. Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting story. I guess I just didn't like the writing.
Fair
But,
enough.
You know.
This is one that I feel like I've heard a lot of buzz about, but I haven't read. But I feel like it's possible that if I read it now, I'll be like, wow, this is stupid. Instead of being like, wow, this is great.
It's just like style-wise, it didn't really click for me. I saw the movie as well. Movie I think has Emma Watson in it.
I'm pretty sure it
Am I making
does,
that
yeah.
up? Okay.
I feel like that's one of the main things that draws me to it. As I'm like, I know the movie has Emma Watson.
Oh, you're a big Emma Watson fan, are you? You like live action Beauty and the Beast over there? Just watching it on a repeat?
That's one of my less favorite picks.
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Emma Watson is pretty good at basically everything I've seen her in.
I watched Beauty and the Beast in the theaters by myself in the middle of the day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was going to some library conference. I don't remember why or what it was, but I was done early and it was like, I don't know. I was just in a real town, Ooh, shade. I didn't mean to throw shade. I was in a town with an existing movie theater.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, I'm just going to go see a movie. And that was the thing that was playing. So I was like, one for Beauty and the Beast, like in the middle of the day wearing a tie. And they were like, okay.
That's hilarious.
And that's how I watched it.
I really, really wanted that movie to be good.
Yeah.
And it wasn't horrible, but there were definitely some choices that I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
I haven't seen all of the live action Disney like remakes, but every time I watch one, I'm like, well, that didn't need to exist, did it?
Well, at first I was like, this is kind of fun. And then they've just kept coming. And I'm like, I can't keep watching all of these.
Yeah. I did like Aladdin.
I
liked
haven't
Aladdin.
seen that one. I think the only ones I've seen are Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my
and maybe
gosh.
Beauty and the Beast just...
I sat through Lion King. And if you want to see the Lion King, but with expressionless real animals...
Well, they're not even real
acting.
animals.
No, they're not. They're not. But like that's what I mean. It's just like,
right. They look like real animals.
For whatever the filmmakers were like, well, lions don't really smile or smirk, so let's have a dead, flat affect on every character in this movie.
But was it worse than the auto-tune on Emma Watson's voice in Beauty and the Beast?
Yes.
It was worse?
It was.
Okay, wow. That's...
It was worse.
That's pretty impressive.
It was worse.
All right, so before we get too derailed, also tied for number 5, Looking for Alaska by John Green.
This is one that I have not read.
I have not read it either.
We did a whole spotlight on John Green with Ben Lehman, who did all the music for the old shows back in the All the Book Show days, but I didn't read this one.
Have you read other John Green?
Yeah, I read Turtles All the Way Down, which is dumb and I hate it, and I read The Abundance of Catherines, which I liked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read Paper Towns, and I also have a personal vendetta against The Fault in Our Stars for no good reason.
Yeah,
that's another one
it was
that
too much. Yeah,
it was too much. Well, and everything I've heard about it is just kind of cringy.
Yeah.
I did read I think I had maybe the copy of Paper Towns I had like a preview of it in the back.
Okay, and you read the preview.
So I read like the first chapter or so, and I was like, John Green, my man, this is not how teenage girls think.
I read the first Hank Green book, whatever it's called, An Incredibly Remarkable Thing. I don't think that's it, but
it has some of those words, though, I think.
Unmistakably, I don't know.
Something
I read
like
the first one and I liked it, so maybe I'll read the second.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Okay, number 4, Flamer by Mike Curato.
Okay.
Have you read it?
No, this is a graphic novel, though, and I want to read it. I just haven't. Have you?
I have not read it.
Oh, my gosh.
This is one that I've seen a lot, but I have not read it.
Have you read any of these yet?
I read Absolute True Diary.
Okay. So I've read 2 and you've read 1, so I am winning.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, number 3, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison.
I've read a bunch of Toni Morrison stuff. I don't think that I've read that one, though.
I read Beloved, which I really liked.
I've read Beloved.
It was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Saying I liked it is maybe the wrong term,
Beloved
but it was good.
That is rough.
Yeah. Oh my
I read
gosh.
Beloved. I read Song of Solomon, which is a weird book, and I read God Help the Child, which I really liked a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, number 2, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson.
Read it.
You have read it?
I read it.
3 for you.
That is a a memoir, like an autobiography.
I really like the
very
cover.
good.
It's very striking to me.
Good story. Yeah.
I have not read it, though.
Okay.
Okay, number 1, Genderqueer.
Still, really? Because that was
Still.
like top of the list last year, too. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's just hanging out there. Have you read this one?
I did. I liked it.
I have.
I read it back when it first came out.
And then I think I had a copy checked out and it was due, and I was like, "Oh no, I have to give it back."
I know the controversy about this, and there was some concern about this book even locally. But it's LGBTQIA plus content that they always slam it for, and they say it's sexually explicit, and it's very sexually frank, I will say, and there are images in there that I feel like out of context you might be like, "How dare this be?" But it's like the least sexual book. It's like talking about sexuality, but not
in a sexual way.
Right. It's not
gotcha.
It's not meant to entice. You know what I mean? Like
right.
It's so clinical. I don't get it. But
do you
I
feel like the fact that it's a graphic novel opens it to that criticism more?
Yeah, because you can easily take a picture of images in there and be like, "Look at this," you know.
That makes sense.
But Yeah, I don't get it. I liked it. I think it's very good. I mean, I think that it made me think about things and people's experiences in ways that I just was ignorant to before. So I really felt like it kind of opened up my understanding of people's experience different from my own. So no, I appreciated it. I thought it was a good graphic novel. I thought it was a good memoir, and I felt like a little educated by it. So
Nice.
yeah, I liked it a
I
lot.
like a little education here
Yeah,
and
I do too. So you only read one of those books.
I know.
Oh,
You beat me.
I did. All right. Well, happy Banned Book Weeks,
Happy Banned Book
everybody.
How do you celebrate Banned Book Week?
Well, we celebrate by doing a book club and having a display of banned books here in the library. So
That's
if you're
true.
local to the David A. Howe, come on over.
Yeah, we got a lot of good banned books on that shelf.
We do.
All right, well, having dispensed with the banned books, so
Yes.
to speak, although maybe that's the wrong word.
I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure.
I don't think it's the right one. Yeah.
All right, what else have you been reading this month, and what's your like highlight book of the month?
Oh,
What's the
my-
one that stands out?
My highlight book of the month.
Wow, in a really dramatic voice.
Sorry, I just felt like I had to do that. Gosh, let's see. I'm going to say Stephen King's The Tommyknockers because we are in spooky season. This was my spooky read. I've been reading a Stephen King book with my friend Eric for I don't know, 10 years, let's say, probably more.
That's a lot of Stephen King.
It is a lot of Stephen King, and it's hit or miss. We've had some interesting experience over the years. Tommyknockers came out in 1987, and it sucks.
But it's your book of the month.
It is my book of the
It's
month.
the one that stands out?
It is the one that stands
Okay,
out.
okay.
It is the one that stands out because it's very long, and it starts great. I don't know that I've read another book that started so good and ended so poorly in my life.
Have you ever read Brave New World? Because that's like...
I have read.
That's what I think of when I think
I
of a
have
book
read
that
Brave New
starts
World.
good and ends really, really bad and
I
weird.
I think this is worse.
Okay.
I do think
That's
this is
pretty
worse.
extreme.
Yeah, well, it's so long. Brave New World is at least short.
That's
You know
true.
what I mean?
That's true.
This one is about nothing, but it's the premise is that this woman is walking in the woods and she finds this chunk of metal sticking out of the ground and becomes obsessed with it. I'm going to say light spoilers for the Tommyknockers because if you don't want to know anything about the premise, this is maybe a slight spoiler, but I don't think you should read it. So I'm going to tell you anyway. It is. It's aliens. We're looking at a bit of a spaceship situation here.
I kind of
really-
feel like that undersells the spookiness of being like, what's this weird object that I'm obsessed with? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just aliens.
It does. It does. I mean, the blurb kind of tells you that, so I don't really think it's a spoiler. But yeah, and eventually, like the whole town becomes enthralled with this, and the spaceship's presence there is having impacts and effects on the town, and it becomes very like insular, and it becomes very like walled off. The town is, and so I don't know. It. Eric said, like, what if Salem's Lot, but it was bad. And that really is kind of what it's like because, I don't know, it just keeps getting worse. Like, the premise is interesting, but the execution is just terrible. And Stephen King himself has been pretty critical of this book. Like, he
Okay.
said it's a poorly written book, and if I had it to do all over again, I would write it better, and I would cut it in half. And I think he's right. I think the germ of the idea is a good one, and I would have liked a good version of it, but that's not what we got. So
That's a shame. At least he's self-aware, though.
not a great start into my spooky season. I know. So that's my spotlight. My hot takes, my quick ones will be Giant Garden of Oz by Eric Shanower. I went to a costume-themed party with our friend Sally Jacoby Murphy, who's going to join us as the Queen of Halloween in our next
Absolutely,
episode.
yes.
And it was Oz-themed, so I read an Oz book that I hadn't read before, and it was fine. It was good. It was a later entry. It included Captain Bill, who was my costume for this party, so that's why I read it. The other one is By the Time You Read This, I'll Be Gone by Sarah Kuhn, which is a YA book, and it's set in the world of Murder, She Wrote. Classic series, Murder, She Wrote. And the character's name is B. Fletcher in this, and the Angela Lansbury's character is J.B. Fletcher, Jessica Fletcher, in the original series. And you find out as the book goes on that she's the great aunt. Jessica Fletcher's the great aunt of our main
Okay.
character here. So it connects enough to Murder, She Wrote that there were maybe 2 scenes with her going to visit her Aunt Jess.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it works pretty well. I think if you don't know anything about Murder, She Wrote, doesn't matter. You'd be totally fine.
That's kind of
If
nice.
you know about Murder, She Wrote, it's kind of, it's Cabot Cove, Jessica's there. Like, it works. Thematically, it doesn't feel like a Murder, She Wrote. It doesn't have that cozy kind of mystery vibe.
I feel like it'd be hard to do that in a YA book and have it gel.
It would. It's not self-contained. You get a pretty good closure here, but it tells you that there's more to come. So it has me interested enough to read book 2.
All right.
Yeah. My graphic novel, I read Hawkeye versus Deadpool, which is by Gary Dugan. This is my graphic novel spotlight. Also Halloween themed. It's a Halloween mystery with
that's fun.
Yeah, with Deadpool and Hawkeye. How do you feel about Hawkeye and or Deadpool?
I like Hawkeye. I don't know much about Deadpool.
Okay. You like the Kate Bishop Hawkeye?
I like both Hawkeyes.
You're equal opportunity Hawkeye.
Equal opportunity
fan.
Hawkeyes.
Okay, well they're both.
Well, I feel like their dynamic is really fun. So
Yeah.
I feel like it would be weird to be like really into one Hawkeye, but
Right.
really anti the
Not
other
into the
Hawkeye.
other.
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
The dynamic plays into it. Deadpool, I think, fits into that well, and it was really fun.
Nice.
Then for hot takes, I read Dune: House Atreides Volume 1. Pretty good. I like Dune. And then The New Champion of Shazam, which is a Mary Marvel story. And I love Shazam and I love Mary Marvel. So that's new to our collection. And I read it and I liked it.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me.
Sounds like
book-wise.
mostly wins.
What about you? What's your spotlight book of the
My
month?
spotlight book is The
Don't you
Secret
say Dorothy
Adversary.
Sayers. Okay.
It's not Dorothy Sayers. It's Agatha Christie.
But you're in the same ballpark,
It's
but
the
I'll
same
allow it.
ballpark.
I'll allow it. I read this. Nick and Nora, Tommy Tuppence.
Tommy and Tuppence.
Tommy Tuppence.
Tommy and
Okay.
Tuppence.
Yes.
Which I feel like just when you say the words Tommy and Tuppence, it's like, what? What do you,
Yeah.
like, what? I feel like your ears, it's
Yeah.
hard to like process it. But once I started reading it, it all became clear. Tommy is this guy.
Yeah.
Tuppence is the nickname of Prudence, who's
Yeah.
his friend.
Yeah.
I think Tuppence is kind of a baller nickname, honestly.
It is a good name. It is a good name.
I'm
Yeah.
a little jealous of that.
Yeah. So I read this book, in the year 2002, when I was working at the Willard Public Library in Battle Creek, Michigan. I listened to it on cassette on an R2D2 Walkman.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
I feel like that's the best way.
It is
the best
it's
way
the
to
only way.
experience
I don't know how you read it if not for an R2D2 Walkman.
I read it this like really old green hardcover.
I saw your
with like
book.
the cover falling
I
off.
remember
Yeah, and
now.
it had like the coffee ring stain on it.
Yeah.
Had a pretty good like old book
It did.
smell,
Yeah.
which we have here in the collection. So if you feel
Check
like
it out.
you have to read Tommy and Tuppence
You
with
could
the
read Allie's
old
actual-
green hardcover, yeah.
Okay.
If you find my bookmark in there, just
All right. They're kind of hapless detectives, as I remember. They're kind of
Yes.
like, gosh, Tuppence, look at this. It's a mystery.
I feel like they definitely have some cleverness and some skills to them,
Yeah.
but they're very much like they just kind of decide that they want to like adventure for
Yeah.
money because they're both
Yeah.
broke.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so they're like, oh yeah, we
opportunistic.
can clearly, we know nothing about, being detectives
Uh-huh.
or anything like that,
Uh-huh.
but clearly we can do this and clearly we'll make money off of it.
Yeah.
And it works for them, which makes me a little angry because
Yeah.
I want that to work for me and it's just not going to.
Yeah.
But anyway, their dynamic is fun. It felt very similar to like a PG Woodhouse, Jeeves and Wooster
Yeah.
kind of thing with just like the way they talk to each other and the kind of like the youthfulness that they have and like
Well,
even
it's a pretty
though
stark contrast to like Miss Marple or Hercule
Right.
Poirot.
Yes.
Very different.
and like even though they're like it's written long enough ago that it's like not the same like these kids kind of things, you
Yeah.
can tell that they're doing their version of like
Yes.
these kids
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yeah. Scooby-Doo for the classics area.
Yes. So I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like I've been in a little bit of a funk with reading physical books lately.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure why, but I've just been
Wow.
like audiobooking it like crazy.
Okay.
But I read
Not
this
even
one as a
ebooks,
physical
just
book.
listening.
Just
Okay.
listening.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't do ebooks. The screen, my eyes. I hate it.
Okay, Grandma.
I know.
All right. I always make the background black and the text white, and then I can do ebooks.
That might help.
So that's just a little
that
suggestion
might help.
from me.
I
to
think
you.
if I was reading it on like a
Barnes and Noble Nook.
it would be fine, but if I'm reading it on my phone and I have to like scroll so much so it feels like the book is taking forever.
Okay.
And it's like I just
Okay.
I can't do it.
I'm going to
like
edit that
it.
out for you saying it's a Barnes and Noble Nook because Amazon is my nemesis. And
Okay.
I can't give them any
Fair enough.
publicity. So, yep.
As long as the screen doesn't shine into my eyes.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Okay,
Regardless
perfect.
of brand.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say that Tommy and Tuppence is how she ended her career. I think her last book is a Tommy and Tuppence
Okay.
after a big gap.
I know there's only like 5 of them.
Yeah, and I think the middle ones are short story collections
Okay.
or collections of Tommy Tuppence novellas. But
Which I'm excited to read more of them now, but I haven't really looked into what the
Yeah.
other ones are yet.
I think that I've read that first book in the first collection, and I think you're right. I think it's a small number, so like I need to go the distance on it just so I can say I've completed an Agatha Christie collection because I love mysteries. I don't love Agatha Christie, and that would just be I could check that right off the list.
It's really
So.
funny to love mysteries but not love Agatha Christie.
I'm sorry.
But mind you, I say this fully knowing that I think Tommy and Tuppence is the only Agatha Christie
Yeah.
book I've ever read.
I don't like her
so.
style. I don't like a lot of the stuff that I've read of hers is like you can't really solve the mystery because the missing key is kept from the reader. And I
That
don't like
does
that.
annoy me.
I want to be able to solve it myself.
I
know?
feel like I'm not a very
Father
good
Brown,
armchair
like
detective.
Chesterton's Father Brown is a little
Father
like that
Brown.
as well. You know?
I like those though.
Yeah, I like them all right.
I feel like I'm not a very good armchair detective because usually when I'm reading a mystery, I don't know who did it, and
Oh.
I'm pretty okay with that.
Wait, are you like dumb?
Maybe.
Oh no.
Well, sometimes it's a case like what you talked about, where it's like you get to the end and they're like, "Oh, this secret clue that I saw that I
Yeah,
didn't tell the
not
reader,
cool.
and there's no way I could have known." And
Not
I'm
cool.
like, so I feel like if I'm watching a mystery show, like Only Murders in the Building or Wednesday, like
Yeah.
I'm armchair detecting it the whole time.
Okay.
But sometimes with books, I'm like, I just don't feel like it. Just feels like I'm not going to be able
Yeah.
to have all the pieces that I need.
That's fair enough.
And so I'm just like, all right, I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm
Okay.
just seeing where this goes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Good for you. Any graphic novels?
I don't think I read any graphic novels this month, actually.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Did you finish that Star Trek one you were reading last
I
time?
did not. I have been
Allison.
intending to, and it's
Okay.
still on the little, like,
Okay.
tiny table where we
Okay.
keep all of our books
All right. So
at
it's
home.
a very short graphic
But
novel.
I did not finish
okay.
it yet.
So maybe take a couple months.
It-
I'm gonna ask you
We'll
next
see. We'll
time.
see. Okay.
You think I won't, but I will remember.
I can't get away from
You
this.
can't. No.
Okay, but other things I have been reading.
Yeah. Let me hear it.
Besides The Secret
I'll take
Adversary.
it. Let's do it.
Caleb and I finished the rest of the Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarian series.
Cute.
We read books 5 and 6.
Okay.
6 is narrated by a different character,
Oh.
and it's co-written with another author.
Mm.
So I wasn't sure how it was going to go, and my brothers were like, "Yeah, the 6th one, it's not the
Okay.
same. It's
okay.
not good."
And they have not led you astray before, your brothers.
That's true. They usually give pretty
Yeah,
good book advice.
they are
However,
good.
in
Ooh.
this case, they were totally in the wrong.
Sorry, fellas.
The 6th book is incredible.
Yep.
It totally matches the vibe of the other one.
Okay.
The other narrator is great.
Huh.
I have basically no notes.
Okay.
It was a good time.
Good.
So I also read Monstrous Regiment by Terry Pratchett, continuing my
Yeah.
Discworld
And
explorations.
thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
A girl runs away to war and pretends to be a boy, and she realizes that she's not the only one
Huh.
in her regiment doing this.
Oh.
And there's also just like vampires and trolls.
Okay. And that was the Disney movie Mulan. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it had some of those
Okay.
vibes.
Okay.
I'm also currently reading Masquerade and Going Postal by Terry Pratchett. One
Okay.
physical, one audiobook.
Oh.
Just like maximizing my
Okay.
Terry Pratchett.
All right.
And Caleb and I started The Penderwicks, which is our next read aloud series.
Is that old?
It is old. It's one of my favorite middle grade series. I read it.
Oh, so
my
not like
mom,
old. Like
Well,
early 2000s?
early 2000s kind of
Okay.
old. Like
Yeah,
my
I can
mom
roll
read
with
it
that.
to me when I was 5.
Yeah.
And I really related to the character who's 5.
Yeah.
And then I read it again when I was 11, and I really related to the character who's 11, kind of a
Okay.
situation.
Okay. So this is a revisit.
It's a revisit. But Caleb hasn't read them, so
Okay.
like this is mandatory.
All right. Got it. Has he read any comic books? What's he reading?
He has read comic books.
Oh,
What have I
geez.
seen him reading?
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
He was reading a Supergirl comic book.
I love me some Supergirl. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know which one it was,
All right.
but he said it was really good, and he
Okay.
thought I would like it.
I bet it was Tom King's Supergirl book that's recent.
I don't know, but
That's my
I
guess.
can find out.
That's my guess. Yeah, you can tell
He
me
said
if
it
I'm
wouldn't
right
be
or
a bad one to start with, if that gives you more clues.
wrong. Okay.
Moving on from my lack of comic book reading.
That's okay. I shouldn't have asked.
Well, sometimes I read a bunch of them in a row, and then other times I don't read any
Yeah.
for like a long chunk.
Yeah.
There's just really no
It's a
consistency.
constant rotation for me.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, movie-wise, what have you been watching?
Okay. Well, are we spotlighting movies too?
Let's spotlight movies
Okay.
too. What's
Then
your
I
movie spotlight?
have selected Enola Holmes #2.
Oh.
sequel.
Have you seen number 1?
I have seen #1.
Okay. I
saw
just wanted
number
to make
1
sure.
Yeah, I saw #1 like in good old 2020 when it first came out.
Oh man.
We actually started Enola Holmes 2 a while back and then got away from it, like had to pause it and then never finished it. So it was like a year in between, and I was
Oh,
like, we
that's
should
tragic.
watch that movie. So we did, and I actually liked it quite a bit. I know you have kind of mixed feelings about it.
I
'cause
do
it
have a
doesn't
little
gel
mixed
with
feelings.
the book. But as someone who's not read the books, I thought it was really good.
That's
so
fair.
Millie Bobby Brown, Henry Cavill. Yeah, I liked it a lot better. Like I finished it and I was like, bring it on. Let me have number 3.
You liked it better than the first one?
I did like it better than the
Okay.
first. Yeah.
The first one is closer to the book.
Okay.
The second one it has some vibes in common with the book, and obviously it has the main characters are
Yeah.
in common with the book.
Yeah.
But like the whole story is like a totally different story from the second book.
Okay.
which I thought was a really interesting choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I also liked
what
it,
do I
but I
think
was
of
a
that?
little bit like, why didn't you just do the second book?
Yeah, see, I didn't have the comparison, so like it didn't matter to me.
You should read the books at some time, though.
Maybe I
they're
will.
short and they're great.
Maybe I will. It did put me in like a Holmes adjacent mood. I want to mention too, the score is by Daniel Pemberton, and he did the first one as well. I've been listening to both of them like while I'm reading other things because I really like the music. I really like the main theme of it, which I think you'd probably recognize if you heard it because it's pretty present in the movie. But I've been using that while I read other things, including I read a graphic novel called Mycroft's Dangerous Game, which is set in the movie world, but it's written by Nancy Springer, who I think she wrote the books.
She wrote the
right?
books.
Yeah. So you
That's
might
kinda
like
cool.
that. You might want to check that out. And also I picked up Mycroft and Sherlock, which is the second Mycroft book by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, obviously. When you think of Holmes' world, you think of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Of course. I don't know
obviously.
what else you would think
So
of.
it's by him and Anna Waterhouse. Not as good as the first one. I think introducing Sherlock, making a young Sherlock more of a co-billing kind of character, weakened the book because it felt like reading a bad Sherlock Holmes novel instead of
that's
reading
hard.
an interesting spin on the world.
Yeah, I feel like once you allow yourself, like, I love spin-offs and, like, you know, stories about other characters, retellings, all that kind of thing. But I feel like if you write it and it's too similar to the original, but clearly not, that's when it's like, well, you've just...
Yeah, so the focus on Mycroft for the first time, because he's like a
Right.
government official, you know, it was a very different thing, really worked for me. But this one I was kind of like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think the third book is a Mycroft and Sherlock team up as well. So I'm kind of disappointed. I wish they would have towed the line of making it a Mycroft series, but
yeah.
whatever.
Well, because I
gotta
feel like
read it.
seeing them interact could be fun, but, like, Sherlock definitely would have to, like...
But the
be
thing
really
is, it
pretty.
wasn't a lot of interaction. It was like they were each doing their own thing in a connected case. So I don't know. It wasn't
don't
really
know.
like the buddy cop vibe that you might have expected.
Yeah,
or
I
at
feel like
least-
a buddy cop vibe, or like
Yeah,
a
'cause they
like,
don't get along. What's
Like
so
one of them
fun?
is trying to buddy cop, but the other is trying
Is
not
not
to.
feeling
Buddy.
it.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like that could be fun.
Yeah, it could have. Maybe the third one is more like that. I don't know, but I can't read 2 out of 3, so
Oh.
I'm in it now. Here are my hot takes. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
I watched Air, that Nike movie
Oh.
that Ben Affleck directed. Very much just okay. You know, I like all the actors in it. I love Ben Affleck as a director, and it finished, and I was like, okay. I rewatched Escape to Witch Mountain. Made my son watch Escape to Witch Mountain. Have you ever seen it?
Is that based on a book?
It is based on a book.
Okay, I've
yeah,
seen
Alexander
the
Key
book.
wrote the
like,
book. Yeah.
shelved it with my own hands.
Yeah, it is based on a book.
But I
I
have
love
not
that
seen it.
movie. My son was pretty into it. I wanted him to like it more, obviously, because it was one of my favorites as a child, but pretty good. So you've never watched it already?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I would like it though.
Well, I recommend
it has the word witch in it, so
does,
that's a good
yeah.
sign.
But that is kind of a misnomer because there are no witches in it.
well, disappointing, but
It
I
is.
still might like
yeah,
it.
that is kind of a letdown. I watched the movie Nimona, which is based on that graphic novel. I've never read the graphic novel. I've shelved it a million times, but I really like the movie, and now I got to read the graphic novel.
Nice.
Any
I haven't
familiarity?
seen it.
Okay.
That movie has been on my list though, but I haven't gotten to it.
I feel like this is going to tick people off because I've not watched the Christopher Guest movies like Mighty Wind and Waiting for Guffman and stuff like that. Haven't watched them. But I watched Mascots, which is a Christopher Guest movie. It was like a Netflix thing. So this is my first one, and I think if you're a fan of Christopher Guest, you now hate me because I started with Mascots. But it was decent. I liked it. I laughed. I want to watch the rest of them. Because I finished Schitt's Creek, and it just kind of put me in that zone, you know? And I just didn't have access to the others, and so this is the one I went into.
Well, that's fine. We can just inflame people on the podcast
Yeah.
today.
I mean, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, so great. And I was like, hey, I should watch those movies. And I watched this. But anyway, You Hurt My Feelings with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Liked it. Thumbs up. She's an author, and she overhears her husband talking about how he doesn't like her book.
Oh my gosh.
And that's kind of the lens in. That's not really the primary focus, but it's a big point in the movie.
That
so
does
it's good.
kind of pique my interest. I'm not going
You
to lie.
remember last time I rewatched The Fugitive with Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
It was great. I love it. It still holds up. There was a sequel. How do you make a sequel to The Fugitive? The answer is
Right.
please don't. U.S. Marshals stars Tommy Lee Jones and like the supporting cast chasing another fugitive who's also innocent. And I'm like, friends, why? Why would you do this?
Huh.
Why would you do it at all? They were an appealing group, and so I get, like, let's keep it rolling, but why wouldn't you just have them chase a villain? You know, like a straight-up villain. It's a
Right.
really weird pivot. Not worth it at all. Just watch
Oh,
The
boy.
Fugitive. Just watch The Fugitive. That's me. What about you? What weirdo movies are you watching over there?
The usual
Okay.
weirdo movies.
Okay. There is no usual for you because it's like last
Well, I feel
time
like
it was
that is the
Pride and
usual.
Prejudice and that She's the Man, Amanda
Yes.
Bynes movie. Like, what? So I can't wait to hear.
Both great.
Please.
Well, it's always just a mixed bag, and I feel like that is the usual.
Yeah.
My movie spotlight is the movie Rosalind. This is a movie that came out like in the last year or two.
Hip.
And what it is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet from the perspective of Rosalind, who's the girl who he's like talking about, who he's in love with at the beginning.
Okay.
And then just like doesn't care about as soon as he sees Juliet.
Okay.
And
now,
so
who played her in the Baz Luhrmann Leonardo DiCaprio movie? Because that's my lens in.
She doesn't even really appear in the play.
Bummer.
She's just referred to.
Just referenced.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So it starts out with Romeo and Rosalind like being a couple, and then like she's trying to go meet him at this party, but this other guy her dad is trying to set her up with, they go sailing and it starts raining and she doesn't get there in time, and that's how he meets Juliet. And so then he and Juliet start being a thing, and she's like mad and wanting to exact revenge, and so she like cooks up this whole scheme to drive them apart and everything. But it kind of follows the plot of Romeo and Juliet just through a different lens.
Okay.
Like I feel like overall there's nothing about Romeo and Juliet that's like totally inconsistent with it. You could just be like, yeah, and in the end, Romeo and Juliet didn't die. They just, sailed off in a boat thanks to this girl.
The Romeo and Juliet time period and everything. It's
yes,
not like a modern.
It's very anachronistic though.
Oh,
it's like intentionally anachronistic. Just the way they talk and act. Like there's not a ton of like, there's not like cell phones in it, but like the way they talk, the lingo. Yeah. Is very like
the fact that they're driving cars really throws it off. Throws off the vibe. Speaking of anachronistic movies, have you ever watched A Knight's Tale?
I have.
Okay, I was gonna
It's
say.
kind of a similar vibe to A Knight's Tale.
All right.
And I do
you
like
like
that
A
one.
Knight's Tale?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
because
I was thinking you would like it. So
yeah, it's a good one.
I'm right.
And the guy who they have play Romeo looks very much like a young Heath Ledger.
Oh, okay.
Which I feel like did enhance the vibes.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
So yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot.
That makes sense.
Yeah. My hot takes.
Yeah, let me have
things that I just watched. I rewatched the first two Bourne movies with some of my friends.
Look at us watching Matt Damon movies.
I know. Matt Damon is great.
Did you like them?
Yeah. I saw them a long time ago and really enjoyed them.
Yeah. I was always pretty indifferent to the Bourne movies. I mean, I've seen them all. I actually love the first Bourne book, like the Robert Ludlum original book. It's Does
it predate the movies?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I maybe have to read it.
Yeah. I want to say 70s, and then there was like a mini series. The book is like a lot of like spy stories at that time. Here's your warning. It is very sexist.
Okay.
Like the way he interacts with like the female lead in that is 100% problematic. So
I'll brace myself for that.
It's kind of treated as problematic in the story, but not enough. So there's the warning.
Okay.
That aside, I think it's a really compelling, interesting book.
I feel like there's a lot of movies from about this area like that I watched as a kid, and I was like, yeah, the representation of women isn't great.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, this relationship started really quickly without a lot of preamble.
Yeah.
But I feel like I rewatched them now and I'm like, there was no preamble. Like the fact that Marie in the first movie, the first Bourne movie, like she's like giving this rando a ride.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, now we're in love, just like really quickly. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, in the book and in the Richard Chamberlain miniseries from like back in the day, it feels like a straight up abduction.
Yikes.
It's hella problematic. So
fun.
Yeah. So I'm so glad that I endorsed it so well. But yeah. All right. So you watched the first two Bourne movies and they still hold up pretty well. Okay.
Yes. I also watched a movie called Gunpowder Milkshake.
Oh, I've
Have
heard
you
of
seen
that.
this?
No, what is it?
This is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen in my life, okay?
Yeah.
It has Karen Gillan as the main character.
Okay.
And it's like she's a hit woman, basically.
Okay.
She works for this organization. And it's not really our world, but it has some things in common with our world.
Okay, all right.
And she kills this guy kind of by accident, but realizes his daughter has been kidnapped. So then she has to go get the daughter. And there's a ton of fighting.
Cast.
It is a powerhouse cast.
Okay.
It was very surreal to watch. It did involve a librarian with ladies like with guns.
Oh.
It was pretty cool.
Okay.
But it was extremely violent. Much more than I bargained for. So it was a very interesting movie, but I do feel like partway through I was like, I'm not watching more of this than I'm watching just because I can't take in more violence at this point.
Been there. Yeah.
It was bizarre, but if you feel like you can handle violence, an interesting ride. So, and I think that's about all I have for movies.
Okay. All
It's been kind of a movie light month.
Yeah. That seems decent though.
Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Shows?
Sure, I can talk shows.
What's your show highlight?
My show of the month. That would be The Other Two, which was an HBO series. It ran for 3 seasons, but stretched across 2019 to 2023. I think we talked about this a little bit, but it stars Helene York, Drew Tarver, and Molly Shannon eventually becomes a pretty key player in it. And it's about these two where in the initial season, their younger brother becomes like, an overnight pop sensation.
Yeah, this does sound
And
familiar.
then they kind of get pulled into that orbit because they both have, career ambitions and like entertainment world ambitions. And then seasons 2 and 3, Molly Shannon's character, who was kind of supporting in the beginning, becomes like Oprah level famous, and they're still kind of in their own orbits. Season 3 takes on a real surreal kind of tone. Like the comedy becomes very over the top and like a farce. And it wasn't really, the early seasons are a little bit more Arrested Development-y kind of vibe, and the later season is full out almost like a spoof. And so that was a weird jump. Like watching that season, we were like, what is happening? Like, why did we change so much?
Right.
But it still manages to be true to the characters, and I think it ultimately ends in a pretty satisfying way. I don't think it was their intention to end at season 3, but it works pretty well. So I don't know. The characters walk a fine line of being unlikable and being hard to root for, while also you're so invested in the story, like you want it.
Yeah, that's like a delicate balance.
Kind of like Veep in that way, where it's like these characters are not the best, but I want them to be happy. So I really liked it and was sad to end when season 3 came. That's the one that I think. I would recommend it. I think it's worth watching, and like I said, it's 3 seasons, 30 episodes, easy one to watch, but very worth it. For hot takes, I've been really loving the Star Trek Very Short Treks, which they were doing like weekly YouTube shorts.
That's
featuring, it's animated, and it was kind of in celebration of the 50th year for Star Trek animation. So it had voice actors from all the series doing like these goofy little bits. Anybody can watch it on YouTube, definitely worth it. And then The Morning Show, in season 3 of The Morning Show, which is an Apple show with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston. John Hamm is in this season. Really fun. I like it a lot. Season 2 was kind of weird because of COVID-y stuff, but season 3 I'm invested in. And we just started White Lotus on HBO, which I heard everybody talking about and didn't watch it. And now we're like settling down to watch it, and I'm fully in.
Nice.
Do you know anything about it?
I've heard the name a lot, but I don't think I
Okay.
really do
Well, it's
anything
just about these people who spend a week at this resort, the White Lotus, and then things kind of unravel pretty quickly, and they're going in all sorts of unexpected directions. So it's very soapy in the best of ways.
So is this like a Lotus Eaters reference at all? Is it that kind of a thing, or is it just the Lotus coincidental?
I didn't think about that, but it could be.
Okay.
It could be. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I haven't finished it yet. What are you watching?
Okay. Have we talked about Ruby season 9 at all?
No.
Okay, I didn't think we have.
No.
So that's going to be my spotlight of the month.
Hit it.
I love the show Ruby, which for those of you who don't know is an American anime, whatever that means.
I watched the first episode of this because you and Amanda, who's on staff here, love it so much. And I was like, what in the weird like 90s video game cutscene is this show?
The early seasons are very strange,
It's
and the
insane.
animation is very strange.
It's so bad, the animation. Like storytelling interesting, animation objectively bad.
Well, and like the colors and like
Weird
even though
stuff.
the animation from the early seasons is bad,
Yeah.
I feel like I barely noticed because they still are like visually interesting. But yeah, that's fair. The early seasons are a little
And
weird.
then they recently did that 2-part crossover with the Justice League.
I know that
And
weirds
there's
me
like
out
an
beyond
ongoing graphic novel series about the
imagining.
characters all. So like, I want to watch it, but I don't know if I could just jump into the Justice League crossover and it would make sense to me. I don't know.
Well, it would be really easy, like take not very much time at all to watch like the first 2 or so seasons of Ruby.
All right.
Because
they're short episodes.
They're short episodes,
Yeah.
especially at first.
Yeah. It does feel like a PlayStation 2 cutscene, but okay.
Well, in some of the early seasons too, all the background characters are just like black figures.
Oh.
Which is weird, but like makes for some really funny meta jokes. Like this one character's like, oh, where am I going to find another like quirky girl to talk to? And it like cuts over and there's this room full of black figures except for this one girl who you haven't met yet, but like you realize that she's an important character.
Okay.
You had to be there,
I
but it
guess.
is pretty great.
Yeah.
But so the show has been going on for quite some time, and the original creator has passed away now, and it has escalated a lot. And so season 8 ended with a very dramatic cliffhanger, which I will perhaps not spoil.
Oh, okay.
But it ended with a very dramatic cliffhanger.
Got it.
So I had no idea how season 9 was going to go.
Okay.
It was weird. It was unlike anything before.
Okay.
But I did enjoy it, and I'm optimistic that going forward, the show will continue to not jump the shark.
Okay. All right.
I'm hopeful.
Well, maybe I have to get on board. I don't know. I was just very puzzled by the first episode.
That's fair.
First couple episodes, I guess I watched.
I feel like if you can finish the first season,
Okay.
that.
All right. Well, that gives me a goal. That gives me something to shoot
And it's
for.
not that long.
Okay.
Okay, so stepping away from books,
Yes,
movies,
of
TV,
course, of
all
course.
these forms of media that we
Mhm.
constantly consume,
Uh-huh.
do you have any real life highlights or spotlights from the month?
I
Food
don't-
you've eaten,
Yeah.
things you've done,
Oh my gosh.
walks
I
you've taken, crafts.
want Indian food so badly, but I haven't had it in a while.
Please send help in Indian
I don't
food.
know. I went to the Garlic Fest in Cuba,
Oh,
which
that's
was
cool.
which was kind of a weird experience. It was much more garlicky than I mean, I should have known, I guess. But it was like every booth was garlic, and I was like,
What goes
okay,
down at the Garlic Fest?
You buy garlic.
Just like straight garlic? Or
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there was like, there was like garlic mustards and different things. A lot of food vendors. There were some like craft vendors and things like that. But I think we ended up leaving with a sack of potatoes. And
But no garlic?
No garlic. I know.
Suspicious.
We were going to get some garlicky mustard, but we couldn't find anything. But yeah, I'd never been before. It was right in Cuba, New York. I ran into Tina Dalton, who's the director over in Cuba, and we had a good, weird, interesting time. But that's
that
about
does
it.
sound like an adventure.
That's about it for me. The
You know,
Garlic Fest.
I'm dressing up as the head of garlic for Halloween.
I forgot about that, but yeah, that's very you. I don't fully understand it, but I understand that I don't understand it.
Fair enough.
So-
Yeah, I finished like the garlic skirt, and I need
Yeah.
to like make a really puffy
Didn't you
petticoat.
read a book that was like about a clove
Yes.
of garlic? Is this
Yes.
where this is coming from?
A little bit.
What
It's
was the
definitely
book?
related. Garlic and the Vampire.
Garlic. Okay.
And
There you
so
go.
I think
There's
Caleb
a
is going
buddy
to be a
cop right
vampire.
there. Okay.
Right? Honestly,
Yeah.
though. So
Okay.
I'm excited. I hope the garlic costume turns out.
I hope it
well.
does too.
We'll
yeah,
see.
my son is wanting to make his own costume. He's wanting to go as Willow from the Roblox game Piggy.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's making all sorts of plans for making his own costume.
nice. That's cool.
I'm going as Captain Man from Henry Danger, which is a show he and I watched together. He was going to go as Kid Danger, but he pivoted, so now it's
Aw.
going to be Captain Man and Willow from Piggy. So not exactly the themed costume I was envisioning, but
I'm sure it'll still
yeah.
work. I'm
What
sure
about you?
it'll
What's
still be
going on
good.
in your real life? What do you got out there?
I've been sewing more.
Oh, okay.
As per
your
as
garlic
per
suit,
the
sure.
garlic suit, yes. I'm working on a dress which I am close to
Wait,
done
a
with.
garlic dress or a?
A separate dress.
Okay, I don't.
So
think
I have
ever,
like different threads on the
I
sewing
don't think
machine.
I ever spotted your uneven hem, so I think you got away with
Well, I haven't worn the one with the uneven hem
Ah,
because every time I put
okay.
it on, I'm like, oh, the hem is
it.
uneven.
Uneven. Yeah.
So I just need to fix that. But
Okay.
my enthusiasm, I feel like once I've completed a project,
Yeah.
if I realize that there's something wrong with it that I have to fix,
Yeah.
I'm like, but I've already finished. Like I just have no enthusiasm for fixing whatever
Yeah.
the problem is, and so then it will just live
Yeah.
in its
No,
problematic state.
I get it. And my wife knitted me one slipper, and I liked it, but she thought it was weird. And I made the mistake of saying it looked like a little ravioli. And
Oh,
now she
no.
doesn't want to make the second one, but I want that second ravioli
Oh,
slipper.
dang it.
But it's my own fault because I called it a
How
ravioli.
does it look like a ravioli?
Because it's got kind of a flat bottom, and then it sort of comes in, and it's got kind of a flat top, and it just looks like you could pinch the back and fill it with some ricotta cheese. You know,
Gotcha.
but I was fine with it.
Is
I
it
liked it.
colored like ravioli?
No,
at
it's
all?
not. It's yeah, it's green, so it's like sort of that green
Like a
pasta
spinachy
Yeah, like
ravioli?
a spinach ravioli.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. I'm never gonna get that other slipper. So that's
Oh, you
sewing.
tried sewing.
Sewing.
I
Did you-
also, I guess this is back to media things, but I also started a new webtoon that I'm very excited
Oh,
about.
okay, all right.
Which is Lady Liar. It's a
Yeah.
new webtoon by a webtoon artist who wrote another one that's like one of the
Okay,
webtoon
okay.
classics,
Yeah.
Miss Abbott and the Doctor.
Okay,
And about every year or so, I'll just like re-binge that entire webtoon.
that's funny.
And then I found out that she was making a new one, and I was so excited.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now every week on Wednesday night, I'm just like anxiously waiting for the
That's
episode
cool.
to drop.
I like to have something. I have been keeping up with Heartstopper
On the Webtoon?
You brought the Webtoon app into my life, by the way.
You're welcome.
As
That's
like-
all I have to say.
As long-term listeners might remember from our How's Things Spotlight on Webtoon. But I have been doing Heartstopper, and I've also been reading Trash Bird, which is so funny. It's more like a classic comic strip, but it kills me every time. I love it.
Incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little low on webtoons. A lot of the ones I was reading, like, finished.
Yeah.
And then I haven't found a lot of new ones to replace them. So
Okay.
I need
All right.
to up my webtoon.
I guess you
game.
do. Not a lot of spooky things on your list, and we are in spooky season.
We are in spooky
As
season.
listeners remember, we're gearing up for our next episode where Allie has to try the film The Others with Nicole Kidman. Have you watched it yet?
I have not watched it
It's
yet.
a good call. You got to watch it closer to
yeah,
the,
I figured it'd be good
the
to like
screening.
save. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited to have Sally Jacoby Murphy here. She and I actually recorded a Star Wars Halloween episode, Ewok Hunt, that is going to be over in the Andorian Life feed. So if you follow this Andorian Life, you'll get to see Sally there too. But yes, we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk all about The Others, starring Nicole Kidman and friends.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it in many years, but I think it's going to hold up. And I'm excited to hear your take from it.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I think that's the right mood. I think that's the right mood to have.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to watch The Others if you want to watch along with us.
You have to.
And be scared with me, because, I don't know, we have to share this fear together.
Spooky.
Thanks for listening, as always, and until next time, hang in there.
See you then. Did you say hang in there?
I did say hang
Is that
in
your
there.
that's your new catchphrase?
I guess so.
Okay.